thanks for coming. We didn't think anybody was going to show up because it's not about AI. You can still leave if you want. It's not about investment. So thanks for coming. We have a really great panel. Everybody's been really busy. And I want to introduce myself. I'm Harriet Seitler. This panel is about marketing that actually works, so make sure you're in the right place. And you know, there is such an interesting challenge when it comes to marketing for all of us. You know, there's brand, there's go-to-market, there's growth, there's experiential, PR, partnerships. There's so many different facets of marketing. You know, really, what does actually work? You know, what do we all in this room as marketers need to embrace? You know, does it change from business to business and from different stages in a business? So we have a panel of really, really experienced, talented people, each excellent executives who have come from different points of view, and we're going to get the best of their wisdom today. So we have John Jorgenson, who's the CMO of Cambium Learning, Jessica Ewing, who's the founder and CEO of Literati, and Mike Giardino from Quizard. And if you guys could each, he's the CEO of Quizard, if you guys could each introduce yourselves, tell us a little bit about, you know, your perspective and also kind of what is your product, your mission, your promise to the consumer or to your consumer?
Sure. Thanks, Harriet. My name is John Jorgenson. I'm the CMO at Cambium Learning Group. Cambium is comprised of 5 brands that serve the K-12 space. Each of the brands is built around a value proposition that is distinct for the vertical that it serves. And so we're really about making sure that that Cambium is supporting those brands the best that we can. So we have an enterprise structure, but we have business units that are run independently. We are really focused on 3 segments primarily. There's digital curriculum and assessment and professional learning. So we're really all about our purpose, which I'll talk more about in a little bit, but that's kind of a high level of who Cambium is. As far as my role as CMO, I work both at the enterprise level with the brand strategy and making sure that we are building momentum for Cambium as a brand, but also working with each of those respective go-to-market brands to do the same for them and achieve their financial and impact goals.
Great. I'm Jessica Ewing, founder and CEO of Literati. So we're a fun kids book brand. We started as pure direct-to-consumer, doing subscription book boxes. We built the first sort of try before you buy book box for kids. So the mission of the company is to ignite a love of learning and a love of life. This is going to be a fun panel for me, actually, because we sort of pivoted our go-to-market strategy about 2 years ago from pure D2C into school book fairs. And so we're now operating school book fairs and have brought our consumer brand into schools, which is why we're at an EdTech conference. And this has been a huge shift in our whole strategy, so we'll get into it, but it's gonna be fun because I've used a lot of the marketing strategies that I think we're gonna talk about that are more digital marketing, and then just ended up kind of shifting to a B2B to C strategy and having more product-led growth. So that's kind of what you'll hear me.
Which really speaks to a big question of, do you change strategies as your company grows, et cetera, which we want to talk through.
Hey everyone, I'm Mike Giardino. I'm the CEO and co-founder of Quizard. We're building an AI tutor for high school and college age students. We launched our product back in January 2023 from our dorm room, went viral overnight with a TikTok video, and have since helped 1.7 million students with over 45 million questions. We're a direct-to-consumer product. We do a lot of TikTok, so you're gonna hear a lot about that. And yeah, excited to learn from these veterans who have a lot of experience.
I think Mike just graduated college, right? Did you?
Back in May.
In May. Congratulations. Yes, you're going to be like really kind of blown away by Mike. I asked him like one question, like 20 minutes later, he was still talking about all the different creative things that he's been doing with social media and influencers, et cetera. So we all have a lot to learn. But let's start with you, John. Your role as CMO is, we heard from Kemi yesterday at the ladies' lunch, really that Cambium is about making every teacher, every student feel seen. You have a really big presence here at the summit. You have a really important purpose, it sounds like, as a business. So how do you approach achieving purpose and still achieving kind of the go-to-market financial business needs?
Yeah, no, that's a great place to start. I think purpose for us is the reason we exist, right? It's our why that you often hear about. So our purpose is to help all teachers and students to feel seen, valued, and supported, which drives everything that we do. It's sort of a filter that we put everything through. But then the question is, well, what do you do? What is your strategy? How do you accomplish that? And our business strategy is that we focus on the intersection of greatest need in K-12 education and then the greatest opportunity to make an impact through technology or tech-enabled solutions. So what are some of those needs? Well, they're not new. They're long-standing. They're not going to be solved tomorrow, which is why we're so focused on them. So we think about three things. One is just think about academic outcomes. So how do you, things like reading proficiency and making sure that kids build foundational skills in science and math, making sure that teachers feel that they're supported and are trained and want to stay in the profession. Those are big challenges that are all part of that academic outcomes piece. Then there's opportunity, which is about equity and making sure that people have access to that kind of the kind of learning that they need. That's something that is really important for us. And then making sure that we are there for people when they are most in need. So making sure that they we're there for them in the moment and making sure that we give them what they're looking for. I think that piece of the strategy is really important because it's about building trust. And if we don't help trust get built, then it's really difficult. We can't. There's no sense of safety, no sense of being taken care of, and so trust is something that really guides us. And so, if you think about that being our business strategy at that intersection of those two things, then there's the question of, well, how do you do that? And that's where we get into our essential elements of simplicity, certainty, and now. Simplicity being, how do you actually solve a problem that I need help solving? That's something that we really focus on, simplifying kind of the learning experience. And then there's certainty, which is tied to that trust idea, which is about making sure that people feel that they can count on the products, they solve the problem that they're meant to solve, and that they build confidence as a result of that. And then there's now, which is the idea that the future is not in some, the future doesn't exist. The now is about the learning moment, and making sure that we do all we can in each learning moment to make the most of education. So those are, when you think about that brand architecture, that really is how I think about it, as our brand architecture with purpose and then strategy and then essential elements as our how. It's ultimately always about impact. It's how do those things combine for us to make an impact. And so when I work with a business unit that we have or one of our brands, it's always trying to bring them back to those things to make sure that they're thinking about how are we fulfilling that purpose, how are we kind of living up to that strategy, and then how are we using those elements to make an impact, because impact is ultimately why we're all here.
So let me ask you, how long has Cambium been around? And how in most of the businesses? Yeah,
so different businesses, some have been around for 40 years, and then others are much newer. But Cambium as an entity has been around since about 2000, early 2000s is when it started. But the different businesses kind of came at different times.
So you're in a beautiful position of being able to set a brand, a level of excellence and a brand expectation, and the businesses live up to that brand, and that fulfills your business needs, which is different than a lot of direct-to-consumer kind of brands that like Mike and Jessica, but still it's very much experiential, right? It's about experiencing the brand and what you deliver. Trust, I think, is a really great word, and trust is something that I think we all want to achieve, in our relationship with our consumers. And Jessica, your work is also really experiential, right? And you're reinventing the book fair. You both ultimately schools and teachers and kids and parents. You really talked about product as marketing. I think when we talked, it was a product and experience. There's brand and trust in there as well. And you also said that you went from kind of a more aggressive go-to-market strategy to an experiential strategy. Can you tell us how you made that evolution, and what did you learn that people can learn from here?
Yeah, sure. I mean, it was painful. So, I'll just start really at the beginning. So we had no idea what we were doing, like when we first started in marketing. So just to give a sense, like my co-founder had a MFA in poetry and fine arts, and Literati was the first company she had worked for, like let alone founded. And my background was Google product management, and like Google does a lot of product marketing, but customer acquisition isn't really something you have to think that hard about. When you're at Google, it's like you put a link on the homepage and you have 1 million users like the next day, right? So we were like,
Good go-to-market strategy.
yeah, 0, right? Yeah, good go-to-market. So going back to the beginning, we basically, we had a couple things going for us, okay? The things that we were going for us, we knew the problem we were trying to solve, which was book discovery for parents. We felt there was a tremendous amount of great work being done in KidLit, and parents didn't have enough time to discover these great books. So we knew what problem we were trying to solve. We had a product that we believed in, and then we had a lot of passion, right? And we knew nothing about marketing, but I go back to those 3 things: know the problem you're solving, have a product you believe in, and have a lot of passion for the space. Because I think that that's what saved us from our total lack of marketing knowledge, because there's so many different go-to-market strategies and channels, and there's a lot of trial and error and a lot of failure. But if you don't have those 3 things, you're gonna struggle. You're not just gonna find a hack in the algorithm or what. Like you have to really have those 3 foundational things, right? So going back to the beginning, it's a little painful, but like our process was we knew we had to get to like 1 million run rate to get to like the next round of financing, and we had a very short period of time to do it. So we had one channel like that was Instagram at the time, and our entire process was she would go out and do these like photo shoots and take just these beautiful lifestyle images, right? Like she'd be like, our burn's gonna go up a little this month because I had a vision of a girl in a canoe, and I had to like hire a drone to like capture this like beautiful canoe like image, and then I had to have it color corrected so it matched the Pantone of the teal. And I was like, Kelly, like people are gonna scroll past this on Instagram for like a half a second. And she's like, I know. That's why it needs to be perfect, right? And so there was no strategy. Like she would just like hand these images to me on like a Google Drive, and she'd be like, all right, go. This is the soul of the brand.
Speak like that?
This is the soul of the brand, the soul of poetry, the soul of literature. And so like I would get these like canoe images, and then like I would go into the Facebook ads manager, right? And I'd be like, splash into summer reading, blah, 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 right? And like come up with these campaigns, and like there's our carousel ad, And so, but like the crazy thing is that it like worked, right? Like you could get away with that. There was a time when you could get away with it. So there was like a heyday from maybe 2012 to 2019 where you could build a $1 billion direct-to-consumer brand off the back of these mostly Facebook, Instagram advertising channels, okay? And it was a beautiful time. And sadly, that time ended right in the middle of my Series B, but like, but I would have loved to have been one of those companies that started a little bit earlier, right? So, but back then it was like, that's literally what we did. We made it all the way to Series A using that strategy. I think we got to about a 7 million run rate with that strategy, just me writing the ads, her just taking these like Vogue images, and that's really what we thought brand was. We thought brand was design. We thought brand was aesthetics. That was it. We never did any foundational work on brand. We were just like, this she's like, it speaks to the soul. So so that's where we started. We got pretty far with that. That strategy also got us into a lot of trouble, right? Later on, because we got to 7 million there, but then the next milestone was to getting to the next level is significantly more challenging, and it's also challenging. There's sort of a mathematical aspect of why the strategy we used was like kind of building a house of cards, and then there was some things that were happening in the market that were making it more difficult. And I think that we were always playing a dangerous game because, when you're using that type of strategy, the first customers you acquire are always going to be your cheapest cohorts to acquire, and they're always going to be your most loyal. So it can give you a false sense of security that you have product market fit, that then you just don't know when that's going to run out. The CAC starts to go up, the retention starts to go down, and you just don't know how fast, as you increase your spend, those cohorts are going to degrade.
And the world changes and the platforms
and the
change,
world changes, and the platforms change, and more money starts going into, there's more competition. I mean, I think our CAC was like $12 or something when we started, and then like when we finally pivoted off of that, I think it was like $120 or something like that, and we were just like, this makes no sense. This makes no sense. And I think, we were just I was tired of the spend. I was also tired of the energy that I felt like we were putting more energy into our advertising than we were into our product. And that is when I became a devotee of product-led growth. I'm like, if we could put all this money and all this energy and all this effort into our customers, into our product, and figure out how to solve their problems more deeply, then that it's going to work. It has to work. So I do remember the board conversation when I went to my board and I was like, we're pivoting into book fairs. And my VCs were like, okay, like we're, doing book fairs now. And I was like, but they actually were very supportive because, what I love about book fairs, it's a product-led growth strategy. That's where all our customers were hanging out. They were all parents. We're talking to them about their issues. And they're like, we're not happy with the books our kids are bringing home from book fair. We're not happy with the experience. So we just started going deeper into that. And anyway, I'll stop talking because, we want to cover other things. But that really has been successful for us. And our book fair channel only launched 24 months ago, but it has already eclipsed our D2C business. So for me, that just the integrity of it, it's just like, it was so hard because we didn't want to give up the old ways of doing things. But once we finally just cut the cord and we were like, this is just not us anymore. This isn't going to work. We're going to have to make a hard choice. It was like the universe instantly kind of rewarded that decision.
Well, what I think is really interesting is you were talking also about being at AIR Show in the last couple of days and listening to what teachers were saying, et cetera. And I think what you did by going the book fair route is create a natural channel to be able to listen and learn and evolve not just your product, but ultimately you do evolve your brand because you're listening. And I've always thought that listening is a really key piece of being a great marketer. So Mike, you're like on the other end of the spectrum, and you're on that. You're really spinning that wheel in an incredibly creative and wonderful way. We'll talk about everything you've been doing and what's changed even since we talked last week.
Totally, yeah. So I think the best place to start is when we launched our product back in January 2023. So we were working on the product since November, and what essentially the product looks like is an app that's kind of like PhotoMath that allows you to take a picture of any question, get instant support in the form of step-by-step explanations and related resources from the web. And from the beginning, me and Ashraf, he's right there, one of my co-founders, were like, this is gonna go viral. It was just, we were watching videos and we're constantly on TikTok and Instagram, and the hot topic at the time was AI, ChatGPT just came out. How do you use ChatGPT? Oh my God, I love PhotoMath, all these different things. And so when we were building the product, the marketing was kind of like built into what we were building. We knew that what we were gonna post was a video of the product as our first thing. And so we built the product, end of January rolls around, and we post our first video at around 8 p.m. on January 29th. And the caption is POV, point of view. ChatGPT and PhotoMath had a baby. The video hit 1 million views in 48 hours, and we hit 10,000 users overnight. It was just like a snap of our finger. And we were freaking out because, one, we had just hit 10,000 users from nothing, and the product was on fire, so we didn't sleep for a month. But that was the first, catching wind. And from there, we kind of kept putting out these organic videos, and they kept getting 500,000 views, 300,000 views. And at the time, we were just riding the trends that were happening on TikTok. If you spend enough time on TikTok, you'll learn how to think like a high schooler. And you'll see that if you, there's like these like little like weird trends that will pop up that will just catch fire. It's like, I remember at the time it was this guy from Stranger Things, which was a show on Netflix, and he would like walk up to the camera and snap his fingers, and then there'd be an image behind it. And we posted that video with our product, and it got 500,000 views. And it was like, all right, that was quick, easy. And more users, more users, more users. Kept doing that for a while, for the first month or two. And then over time, competitors popped up. Everyone was like, wow, this is a really easy way to get users. Like, you can just get a bunch of money from this. And you know, the views started to go down. And we were like, oh shit, what's happening? Like, what are we gonna do? And so then we were like, this is when we need to diversify. So at this time, we were still, you know, in our dorm room in college. And we were like, okay, let's figure out all the other ways that we can do marketing. And so thus pursued what is not ended today, which is like the endless cycle of us cannibalizing our own methods of like doing marketing and completely reinventing the wheel every single week.
This is where Jessica drew the line. She was like, no, I'm not doing that, but keep talking.
Yeah. So we're reinventing the wheel every single week. So since then, we decided, okay, you know, this organic content's not working. What's some other organic content that could work? So we started doing these man-on-the-street interviews where essentially this huge trend popped up where, you know, random people would go up to people on the street and ask them like random questions like, what's your job and how much money do you make? And people like really like that because they're nosy and, you know, that's people, I guess. And so we started doing that with college students, and we would say, okay, what's your GPA? Where do you go to school? Our most viral video, we went to Harvard and we asked, was this your top choice? And many students said no, and that pissed off a lot of people. And from that, 10 million views ensued, and a bunch of traffic to our application. And so that was like kind of them, this man on the street thing has really worked out, and we're still doing them. We're getting millions of views every week on these videos. Ben is our TikTok guy, and now he goes to college campuses, and they're like, oh my God, you're the Quizard guy. It's like, yup, now I'm gonna ask you some questions, and yeah. So that was like, organic content's still really big for us. From there, we also started doing paid ads. At the time when we started, our CAC was like 20 cents. Since then, it's, you know, gone up because the space is super competitive, but constantly rotating our ads, like looking at what all of our competitors are doing. We're like constantly on top of like the hundreds of new creatives that are coming out every single day. So that's the paid ad side of things. Also really big on ASO and SEO. So we have millions of questions that come into our platform every single month, and we're able to put all of those up on Google. And whenever a student Googles a question, boom, Quizard. And now you can come to our application. That gets us a ton of hits. We adopted that one from Chegg, who's killing it with that method. So there's ASO as well, which is App Store optimization. So super high intent keywords. Students will search, I need homework help. Boom, Quizard comes up, and they're very likely to subscribe. So yeah, I think one of the more interesting things that's like really coming up is that these things are constantly evolving. One of the new kind of trends that's come up is called like franchise TikToks. So essentially, a company will have 50 different TikTok accounts run by teenagers across the world. And so there would be Quizard AI, Quizard Study, Quizard Harvard, Quizard this, Quizard that. And all these students will essentially post videos from these individual accounts. And it's kind of like the penny stocks of marketing. You'll pay these students like a few $100s a month, and they'll make videos, and most of them will get like no views, like 10 views, 20 views, 100 views, and then boom, one of them gets like 5 million views, and you've grown your revenue by, you know, a bunch of money. And so it's so
A bunch of money, that's from a CEO, just FYI.
Technical term.
The technical term for it. Yeah.
Yes. So yeah, it's constantly evolving every single day. It's like our marketing guy has to spend like an hour a day on TikTok. I know it sounds ridiculous, but like just to keep on top of the trends, because it's constantly changing, and the moment you become stale and out of touch with the students, like you just completely lost them. Like,
So let me ask you something, Mike. Do you worry about that? Do you worry about, like, you know, how do you keep up with all of that? Is that at some point, like Jessica said, going to go away? And what are you thinking about to sort of ensure that that doesn't happen?
Yeah, totally. I mean, this is a constant worry for us, because like it's a constant changing thing. Like it's like every 5 nights we're having like a meeting and we're like, okay, what's the next move? Because as soon as, like, for example, with this man on the street thing that we've been doing, all of our competitors now just started picking this up. Everyone's doing the man on the street videos, and that's when you know everything's about to die out and you have to move to the next thing. And you know, we're like hamsters on a wheel right now, like it won't stop. And you know, we need to sleep at night, so we're trying to figure out what is the next move.
Okay, so let's ask Jessica and John if they have suggestions for you.
Yeah.
How do you help them get off the gerbil wheel?
I'm speechless. I mean, I'm sitting up here with these two, and in a lot of ways, they exemplify exactly what I try to do in my role, because we have these go-to-market brands that have their own go-to-market teams, their own strategies, even their own purpose, their own vision of the future. And my role is to say, well, how does all of this together make sense? And so I try to encourage them to have this kind of enthusiasm and real love for what they're doing, love for the impact that they're having, and give them opportunities to build that, to build tools, to have partners they can work with. And so I wouldn't discourage you from getting away from that enthusiasm, because I think that ultimately is what brand is all about. It's not just about the creative, as you mentioned. It's about the experience that you're giving for people and the excitement that you have for that. And if you are able to continue to lean into that, sky's the limit. So I'm amazed at the energy, and I think it's just fantastic.
Thank you. Yeah, brand is, I guess, one thing that, you know, we've had to think more about over time, and it's like, what is brand? Like, we're learning what is brand over time, because at first it was just put out TikTok content of the video of the product and people would come, and it was like, great, you don't even need a brand. The utility is good enough. But now it's been, okay, like, I guess, how do you create something that is different than all of your competitors? How do you make it feel like it's, you know, unique?
Yeah, I'm curious, I'm guessing that your consumers all understand your attitude, right? Yeah. But do they understand the product and the brand, and what do they think of it? You know, what do they think about what Quizard is, who Quizard is, what does it mean to them? Did you have a sense of that?
Yeah. So I think when you like talk to students who are using our product, they see our brand as very refreshing compared to the other kind of study brands that are out on the market. You look at, like, this is not calling anyone out here, but Chegg, you know, like all these other big brands, and a lot of students just feel like they're not in touch with them anymore, and they honestly don't trust a lot of these brands. They don't feel like they actually know what the students want anymore, especially when you look at their ads and their TikTok accounts. And so, you know, when I guess students come to us, they're like, wow, this feels like it's really speaking to me. Like, it's like another student talking to me. And I think
you know, what you're talking about also is what everybody else on the panel here has talked about, which is trust, right? And you're establishing trust with a particular kind of voice, just like you are, Jessica, just like you are, John. So, you know, that whole idea of trust and listening, I think there's still something really fundamental in terms of being excellent as a marketer in building that sort of thing. Okay, so you all have really different approaches. Does it feel realistic, or is it crazy to imagine that you can be building your brand, your product, and your go-to-market strategies and your ROI all at the same time? Is it really possible? I mean, everybody's got a successful business.
So I would argue that they're all the same thing. So to me, brand is about everything. It's about the experience that people have. It's about the promise that you're keeping for them, and if you focus on that, if you focus on building that brand, not going beyond the obvious things, but to really make the investments to make that brand meaningful, the growth isn't going to happen without that. Your go-to-market efforts are going to stall out if you don't have a clear sense of what your story is and you know, why people should care about it. So I think that it's tempting to think about brand as being this separate effort where, you know, you do brand work and then you launch a brand and then you kind of focus on go-to-market as a way to grow. But I see brand as an ongoing effort that is really what's the foundation of being able to do that work. So yeah, I think it's sort of a false distinction.
I'm so glad you said
but
that.
I think that but it's understandable, and I see a lot of brands do that, where they see it as being, oh, it's a creative exercise, as opposed to it's the way that it's what we pay attention to. It's how we treat each other. It has everything to do with both the external and the internal. So
You're making
to
me
me,
so
that's what it's
happy.
about.
Yeah, 100%. And so, I mean, you have to break down the silos of people thinking about their own metric in isolation from the whole thing. It has to all gear together. And, I mean, to this day, I run the growth tiger team at Literati, and I have product people in there, sales people in there, marketing people. I have 6 people, one from data science, one from demand gen, one from sales, one from product. And they weren't all talking, and they weren't all they were thinking about their KPI in isolation, and so they weren't all geared together. And I mean, this was to reinforce that gearing. I had to, sit with them every week. It started very slow. We started talking about our growth strategy, and I mean, we literally, built a strategy that was like, this is a relay race where you have to hand the baton off to the next person, and your KPI affects this person downstream, and then you have to do this, and you have to do this, and you have to do this. And I actually bought baton relays on race relay batons online, and shipped it to everyone, and I make them hold their baton. They're like, this is what I'm supposed to do, and I'm supposed to hand off to sales, and then sales is like, yep, I'm supposed to hand off to because you have to reinforce it to that degree in order to get everything geared together, right?
So marketing that actually works is marketing that's integrated across the entire company, and everybody thinks about each part of the marketing cycle, and everybody is wearing each other's hats in a way. You have to understand each other's priorities and each other's point of view in order to make the whole work. And that's I'm not trying to make a summary statement or anything, but it's good to note that everybody kind of up here agrees the same way, that if as a general rule, you can get everybody thinking the way their colleagues would think and working as a single unit, even with different disciplines, ultimately you're going to build a stronger marketing game plan and a stronger company.
Well, it's just what my management coach told me, right, was that when you're small, your founding team has a Vulcan mind meld, right? And so you're able to be so efficient because it's like you share the same brain. That starts to break down as your company scales, right? And so suddenly you're like a founder and you're just like, why am I paying all these people to why don't I just go back to managing the Facebook ads manager? It was so much more efficient than, and so you have all these people working for you and you're not getting the same efficiency as you did when it was 4 people. And the answer is you will never get that efficiency, because your job at that point is to then go from doing everything yourself to creating that alignment between people so that you can get some semblance, some fraction of that efficiency you get when you're small. And that's why one of the best things I think you can do for your growth strategy is to be very careful about hiring, because everybody thinks more people, more, I need a resource. Resources. I'm so sick of hearing about this. I need an assistant, and I need a this, and I need a that. I want to work on the strategy and have 2 people to do. And it's you think that more people is going to equal more productivity, but then what you fail to realize is that each additional head count that you bring in, that's another person that needs to be aligned. That's another communication channel. The level of complexity then of the alignment and the communication changes, and so you have to think carefully about that. Some brands hire ahead of growth. I'm a founder who I hire behind the growth, because I never know what I'm going to need until we're in a situation. I'm like, okay, now it's painful, and now I see exactly what we need, and now I'm going to hire a person
Before somebody keels over.
Yeah.
Got it.
Yeah.
Well, and you mentioned people. I think that we're in education, right? This is potentially the most human-centric industry that we could be working on behalf of, and most of us are here for that reason. And so when you think about marketing programs that work, it has to start with the people, and I think hiring is such an important thing. And then it's not just hiring the best people, it's then about retaining the talent. How are you going to do that? Well, they're only going to stay if they continue to feel like this is the place for them to do that kind of work, where they can actually grow in what they're doing and understand that they're part of a larger purpose and that kind of thing. And that's very challenging for a large organization like Cambium that serves 30 million students and millions of teachers in 95% of the districts. I mean, we're everywhere, and we have thousands of people. And so the only way that you're going to kind of keep everybody engaged is to make sure that they continue to understand, why am I doing this, and why am I here? Is this the place for me to do this kind of work? And that gets into hiring. It gets into ongoing development and training of them as well, and making sure that they understand how their contribution matters.
Okay, we have 5 minutes, and I have 3 possible directions we could go in. You guys can ask some questions. I can ask you guys to ask each other questions, because I know you all feel like you could learn something from each other. Or you could each tell us, what do you think is the most important success you've had that people can learn from? Either that, or what can people here in this room absolutely not miss doing? What does everybody have to do to succeed as a marketer? So what do you guys want to do? Do you guys want to ask some questions, or do you want to address one of the questions that I just talked about?
I had a quick question around like the central aspect of storytelling in marketing, and how do you integrate the storytelling? I'm an educator, by the way, and I hustle the rest of the time.
So I think storytelling is foundational, and I think it's easy to forget that. As a marketer, you can get really consumed with data and the revenue funnel that you're building and product marketing, all the different parts of the marketing mix. But ultimately, we're storytellers, right? We have to be able to articulate why a company exists, how we have a unique place to play in building a future that's going to address the challenges that we're going after. And you can tell stories in all sorts of ways. And I think the one that we often think about last is, how do we do that internally? How do we make sure that people internally feel that, so at Cambium, our purpose is to make sure that teachers and students feel seen, valued, and supported. We think about that internally with our own team, and we spend a ton of time and effort on that. You can't do that if you don't articulate that story. Why are we doing that? What is it we're doing, and how is it connected to our purpose? And so I think we all need to be thinking of ourselves as storytellers. It's not just kind of owned by marketing, just like brand isn't owned by marketing.
Yeah, that's a great point. Anybody else have something you want to ask the team? Okay, then I'll ask you guys. Do any of you want to ask each other a question?
I guess I have a question for Jessica. When you were, pivoting from, more like running the Facebook ads and taking these beautiful pictures, and going from, the book fair, was there iteration between like, picking that the book fair is what's going to work, and how did you really land on like, this is a strategy we're going to scale?
Yeah, I mean, it's a great question. So I think that we started experimentally first. So my team thought I was nuts. I was like, we're gonna do these book fair events. I mean, we were a Series B company sanding bookshelves in our warehouse, and everyone was just like, the CEO's gone crazy. Like, she's paid her last Facebook bill, and she's like off her rocker. We're sanding bookshelves as a Series B company and getting up a pilot for a book fair in Austin, and but we had to build up the operational knowledge. So I think, look, you asked what is the one thing we want people to take away and all of that, and I just look, man, like, if you're building something you're crazy about, you'll find a way to get it out there. If you're solving a problem and you're building a product, and there's a buyer, you will find a way to connect with that buyer. So make sure those fundamentals are there. But beyond that, the universe rewards creativity, and the universe rewards risk. And so if you're willing to get creative, like, you will be rewarded for that. And if you're willing to take risks, like, you have to take risks. Like, I mean, we were a Series B company. We had raised $60 million at that point, and what we had was not working. And we had to make a move. We had to make a move. We couldn't just jog in place. I made my whole team read this book, Who Moved My Cheese? And I was like, there's no cheese here anymore. We have to pick up our tennis shoes and like move through the maze. There's cheese somewhere else, I promise you, right? But it is like, it is scary, you know? And so that would be sort of my thing. Don't be afraid to be creative. Don't be afraid to take a risk. It is the most exhilarating thing that you can do, and it's probably the thing that's gonna make you the most successful, and you won't regret it.
Well, we have 47 seconds left. I don't think anybody here would disagree with that as concluding words. You know, passion, creativity, integrity, trust, and listening. Anything else? Any other words we want to add to that?
I'd add love to that.
Love, great.
And-
I love that. I love
So-
that. Yeah.
What do I mean by that? You had asked the question, like, if there are marketers in the room, what would we want to make sure they leave with? I think it's important, or leaders of organizations. I think as a marketer, for me, one of my primary jobs is to make sure that people fall in love, stay in love with what they're doing and with what the way that they're making an impact. If you don't have that person or that team of people, or even, I should really say that culture, find it, because I think it's super powerful, and I think without it, you're gonna churn through people. You're not going to be able to connect with the market in the way that you need to. And I know that's kind of a lofty ambition, but I think, I mean, sitting with these two, clearly the love is there, right?
Yeah.
And lots of you that I've met this week. So
Yep.
I think that's an important thing to remember.
Thank you. Love you.